Howdy, folks. I'm the grouchy old patriot. For those of you returning to the channel who've seen me before, welcome back. And for those of you new here, this is a little series we like to call Coffee with the Grouch, where we just sit down, have a little chit chat, talk about history, current events, various topics that interest different people. So go ahead, grab a cup of coffee, and depending on the time of the day where you're at, grab a mason jar of ice cold sweet tea or a frosty wobble pop, sit down and let's visit. Well, today we're going to go over a little bit of history and compare it to some things that are happening, current events, and see how they might apply. A few weeks ago, I did a little video about putting pieces of the puzzle together, and I think this might be another piece of the puzzle. And it kind of scares me. You know, back in the 1930s, the short little paper hanging son of a bitch that came to power in a country we call Germany formed a Nazi party. And they had their own private police force. They had their own arm of the armed forces, kind of enforce their will. A few of you may remember studying about the Night of the Long Knives in history, where the brown shirts kind of went around and unalived some people that didn't agree with the party platform. That way they could install their own people in those positions. Well, during that whole situation over there, if you wanted to be a successful business owner, if you wanted to rise through the ranks in the military or get a loan, get good medical care, you kind of had to be, you had to get with the program. You had to be a member of the Nazi Party. You wanted to be a scientist and work on your own research and get funding from the government, well, you kind of had to be a party member. You had to be, you know, part of the Nazi Party. Now, it wasn't law that you be part of the Nazi Party, and a large majority of the Wehrmacht, the German army, weren't Nazis. But the Schutzstaffen, the SS, you wanted to be in that elite corps, you had to be part of the Nazi Party. And after that little skirmish that historians call World War II, where we defeated fascist Italy and Imperial Japan, Nazi Germany, Soviet Union rose up as a world superpower under a communist regime led by Stalin. They got their crap together, started purging the ranks, sending people to the gulags. And also in that society, if you wanted any kind of benefits, if you wanted to get good medical care, if you wanted to be a property owner, own your own home, own a car, wanted a good job, wanted your kids to go to university, wanted the advantages that every family wants for their, or every man or woman wants for their family, you had to be a member of the Communist Party. Had to be a member in good standing. and they kept rolls. If you spoke out against the Communist Party, well, you might just get rounded up some dark night and find yourself waking up in a gulag in Siberia chopping firewood. You know, that is one of the big problems with one-party rule. You have, it leads itself to a dictatorship. You know, China right now, if you're not a member of the Communist Party, you're kind of dirt. And they can pick who they want to be a member of the party. We had some disturbances here in this country back in 2020, the summer of love. And they all started calling for defunding the police, defunding the police. Well, why do you think they did that? If we've got lawlessness in the streets, riots, why would they want to be defunding the police? Well, look at who left. They defunded these police departments and had to cut staff and cut services. Who are the ones that left? The old guys, the ones that were close to retirement, they forced them into retirement. They made some guys quit and move to different departments where things were a little different. Who are the ones that left? It was the older, experienced guys, the ones that have been around, the ones that were there for the right reason. And a lot of times the only cops you had left were the young guys, the ones willing to toe the mayor's line. The ones who weren't in it because they thought that badge gave them a little power. They liked that gun on their hip and that badge on their chest, and they are the law, you know. They're the ones that'll stop you for doing 2 over and give them a reason to stop you and then ask you politely if they can search your vehicle when they got you pulled over, regardless of whether they've got a reason to search it or not. They're the ones who swagger around thinking they are better than everybody else. That's not what a cop should be. It's not what a deputy sheriff should be. They're there to help the people, serve the people. But the good people, the ones that had that in their heart, and that's why they joined law enforcement and walked away from it. They got tired of arresting people and seeing the DAs let them out. They got tired of doing their job and bringing people in only for our vice president, Kamala Harris, who wasn't vice president at the time, but raise money to bail these people out. They got tired of the press and the politicians telling them that they were the problem when they're not the ones out there burning down businesses. They're not the ones out there turning over cop cars and smashing windows in car lots, and they're not the ones throwing bricks, painting graffiti on everything, but they're the problem. They got tired of hearing it, so they either went for greener pastures or took retirement, or some of them just quit and found a different profession. So the only ones you got left in a lot of these police departments are the ones the mayor, the politicians know they can count on to do their bidding. Along about the same time, you started having these woke programs being pushed on our military. In the last couple of years, the recruiting and retention has been in the dumps. for all branches of the armed forces. First time enlistments are lower now than they were at the end of the Vietnam War. Young men and women are going in with ideals and finding it's not the Navy, it's not the Army or the Corps that their dad or their grandpa or their Uncle Bob talked about. So when their first hitch is up, they're getting out. The old sergeant majors and master sergeants, master chiefs, the old guys are retiring and not looking back. They're doing away with traditions, calling it hazing. They're forcing these woke programs and woke ideals into our military and turning it into some social experiment. And the good guys and gals who join because they want to serve the nation and are patriotic at heart, it's not for them. So they're getting out. So who's left? Now you got the ones who enjoy the woke stuff. The ones who believe in the woke stuff. The ones who will toe the party line. Do what's required when their officers and higher ups tell them this is what's required. You got to do it. And if you don't believe that, if you don't think it can't happen, I want you to remember back to Hurricane Katrina, when we had law enforcement and National Guard going door to door confiscating people's weapons. No warrant, no reason, just because the politician told them to do it. Now, you know, you don't have to follow an unlawful order. You may get thrown in the brig for it, but it'll come out in court-martial. You know, you don't have to follow an unlawful order. But we're getting a bunch of people in our police forces, law enforcement, a bunch of young people in the military, a bunch of foreigners are being allowed to join our military for the opportunity of gaining citizenship, that are more than willing to follow those orders. Either because they don't know any better or because it's what they really believe in. So it looks to me like they are, in a way, building their own little private police forces, building their own loyalist military. To what end? Well, we just recently had a president go on TV and give a speech where he called the MAGA Republicans terrorists, the biggest threat to democracy this country's ever seen. Basically said that 50% of this nation were degenerates and terrorists, not worth giving the time of day. So if the Republicans are the bad ones, who does that mean is the good ones? Well, he's a Democrat president. Why don't you go ahead and read between the lines and see where that little puzzle piece fits in the narrative. You know, if it keeps going the way it is and we don't elect some patriots to Congress to get a handle on the situation, and I don't mean re-elect idiots like Mitch McConnell. I don't mean re-elect people who's been there for 30 damn years and never done anything. I mean elect some firebrands, some more little Lauren Boeberts, and maybe some Kristi Noems, a couple more Louis Gohmerts and Ted Cruzes. Got to get rid of the rhinos. Got to get some America first, Constitution believing, patriotic loyalists in Congress. Or I can see it going to the point to where if you ain't a Democrat, well, you're going to be the lowest on the list for a heart transplant. If you're not a Democrat, well, you're going to be last in line to get the government cheese at the damn food line. And believe it or not, folks, every county, every precinct in this country's got a list of who's a party member in good standing and who's not. And unless we do something as a nation, them lists, which are, in my view, just as dangerous as a gun registry, will be used against you, used against me. Because we don't have a D by our name. Oh, I'm not a Republican, you say. I'm an independent or I'm a libertarian. It doesn't matter. Unless you got a D by your name, you are not one of the chosen party. Because I got news for you. It ain't your damn daddy's Democrat Party anymore. It ain't your grandpa's Democrat Party. These are hardcore socialists and communists who call themselves Democrats. Look at what they're doing. Use your head. Hell, they just, even though Biden said he was not allowed, he couldn't pay off student loan on his own. It took an act of Congress. He had a speech that said that in it. He went ahead and did it, forcing me and you to pay off somebody's lesbian dance theory degree, forcing the plumber to pay for the lawyer, forcing the roofer to pay for the doctor's education. What does that sound to you like, folks? Like those not in good standing, those hard-working people are paying for the elite? Sounds a little bit like communist Russia to me. How about you? Think it over. Share this video, hit that like and subscribe button, hit that bell. It does something that YouTube likes. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Am I totally off base here? Kind of hope I am. Otherwise, it's kind of scary to see where this country's going. Get out and vote, people. Vote, vote, vote. Vote for school board. Vote for dog catcher. Vote for, if it's on the ballot, vote for it. Because government starts at home. Your town, your county, your state. This is National Preparedness Month, September. I'm going to be dropping a couple more videos this week on topics a little more lighthearted. Get away from some of the deep stuff for a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about what you can do to, or what I do to try and be prepared. I hope to see you then. And until then, folks, as always, may liberty's torch light your path, and Godspeed in everything you do. God bless.